it's called Grizzly Bear Stories. My brother and other members of my family, when my mother died, we all split up in different parts of Canada. My brother ended up living in the Yukon. He was there for many, many years. One day he phones me right out of the blue and says, Tim, he says, I got cancer. I want to come home. I said, okay, fine. So I get an airplane. I go to Whitehorse, the Yukon. Pack up everything in his black Chevy Silverado. And we start driving all the way across Canada, right? And we finally get to our house. A couple of days later, we're sitting on the couch in the living room watching TV. And across the TV screen comes this big, huge bear attacking these other people, and then the screen cuts out to something different. And I said, wow, my brother goes, he says, it's not like that. I said, what do you mean it's not like that? He says, well, I was attacked by a grizzly bear. I survived. I went, what? You were attacked by a grizzly bear? He said, yeah. I said, tell me what happened. That was no big deal, no big deal. He said, you know, the grizzly bear came up the hill, fired 3 shots, and it fell down, and I sat down and smoked 3 cigarettes back to back. I said, what? Anyhow, so a week later, we're visiting my dad for the first time, seeing my brother in like 20 years, right? And I said to my dad, Dad, you got to ask about the grizzly bear story. And my brother goes, oh, Jesus. My dad and brother are sort of like co-simpatico that way about, you know, being sort of shy in public. And I said to him, no, let me tell you the story. And my dad goes, no, I want to hear from him. Tell me what happened. My brother goes, well, you know, the grizzly bear attacked, I shot 3 times, and I sat down and smoked 3 cigarettes back to back. And I said to my brother, I said, that's not what happened. I said to my dad, this is what happened. You know how you're walking in the morning in the early dews over on your toe of your shoes, and it's kind of wet? You see the birds flying out of the bulrushes like they do in the Walmart parking lot. The sun's coming through the trees, and they're kind of bending like this, and you hear the rippling of the water sounds and so on. And my dad says, yeah. I said, well, we were walking along this creek, and all of a sudden we saw this bulrushes sort of moving and swaying in the distance. And then out of the bulrushes came this huge giant moose charging straight towards us. And you could see the hooves digging into the dirt on the embankments, and big clods of sod flying up in the air, and the antlers waving like this as the water drips off. And the moose went straight up the hill and saw us, and then turned and curved and went right over the top of the hill down on the other side. And then we looked back to where the birds were still continuing to fly out of the bulrushes, and a big, huge grizzly bear was chasing the moose. And halfway up the hill, the grizzly bear turned and saw us and headed straight for us. My brother-in-law was standing on the left-hand side. He fired 5 shots with his Lee Enfield 303, which is a very powerful cartridge. My brother had a 12-gauge shotgun firing slugs. And each one hit, and the fur would fly like this, and little bits of blood, and the whole body would shake, but he kept charging right towards him. At the very end, my brother fired one right off to the center of the left eye. And the bear fell to the ground with a thud, almost like you could hear it in a garage, you know, with a door slammed shut. And his head moving to one side, and the jaw opening, and the tongue coming out, and little flies buzzing around. And I sat down, smoked 3 cigarettes back to back. So that was my grizzly bear story. And so I started telling this sequence of stories to the students. I said, which one did you like better? Yeah. So I said, your job is, when you're learning things, is to apply them in the context of a grizzly bear story. It could be how a child likes to pick an ice cream flavor because of the color or the shape or the cone or little things like that. You could talk about stories that don't even relate to grizzly bears, but just stories about companies doing things. You could talk about Roots Canada and how they changed their branding strategy. Or you could talk about Canada Goose and how they decided to sell a whole bunch of jackets that are short-waisted because they realized there's a whole bunch of 17-year-old girls in Fairview Mall buying them, not people who are going on an Arctic expedition. Those are all little tiny grizzly bear stories. So that was one of the things that I think I should give you money back to the older students because they never got to learn those things.